This is KI4CFS and
Kilo Oscar 4, Charlie Whiskey Charlie, Randy in Statesville.
and I'm traveling through town and wanted to talk to Randy about all his good work with the American Legion and amateur radio.
Yes, indeed. We are starting a program of ham radio at Post 65, but we're going to include you as well because we know the general public is also interested in ham radio. So that's why we do things like videos and trying to teach people what this is all about without losing them in a bunch of scientific hodgepodge.
Yeah. Well, Randy started as a radio. You were in the military in the radio, right?
Yes, I did radio, computers, and aircraft engineering on the C-141, which they don't use anymore, by the way. So I'm dating myself there.
And then got into the hobby just as the pandemic occurred. And I just want to acknowledge you worked your way from technician all the way through extra with often remote testing.
Yes, indeed, I did that, and I thank you. Still thank the club in Anchorage, Alaska, for helping me pull that off. That and Rick McClure, who is an amateur extra at ICARS, Iredell County Amateur Radio Society in Statesville. He acted as my proctor, and we did a complex video testing thing similar to what we're doing now.
Randy joined the North Carolina Amateur Radio Operator Facebook group. I said, "What's your call sign?" He said, "I don't have it yet." And I said, "We have to fix that, especially being a veteran." And that's the group that I and Charles Murray, KI4DCR, and Richard Futrell as well, and a few other people started and run. And then I heard about the American Legion. I thought it's so important because my father, who passed on, was a American Legion, and the honor guard did a wonderful ceremony at his funeral. And I realized this is a great way for veterans to stay connected. Well, you know, a lot of, Randy, veterans sometimes are disabled and they can't get out of the house as much. And what a better way than ham radio to stay connected to the world? I mean, nothing is better for mental well-being than staying connected to other people. And that's what you're working with this project, to reinvigorate the American Legion and the importance of getting involved in ham radio.
Indeed, it is. It's very important because, first of all, you stay socially connected to somebody, whether you're just talking to your buddy down the road or you're talking on a directed net. You're at least having some social interaction, even if you're stuck in a house, even if you can't get up, even if you're in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
You could still socialize with somebody, and that can make all the difference in the world for somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people who might not know a lot about ham radio or amateur radio, now with a handheld like you have here, you can generally connect to a local repeater. So you could be, if someone were in a retirement home involved in the American Legion, they can still connect, join these things called nets where they check in once a week, see what's going on, learn about the community. You're such a great example of the community reaching out because you said, "I'm a veteran, I want to learn," and people flocked in how they could help. And we were talking around the state to help you see if we could get a radio and other things. So this is why I think this is so important for the American Legion collectively to embrace this in supporting our veterans.
Indeed, it is, and we're going to start simple. This is why I have my Baofeng right here. $35 or $40. There it goes. What you're listening to is an aptly timed Morse code identifier, W4SNC, or as in the phonetics we like to call it, Whiskey 4 Sierra November Charlie. That is our local repeater here in Statesville on Iredell County Amateur Radio Society, and we use it every Wednesday night for a 2-meter net at 8:30. So if you'd like to listen in, or even if you're licensed, you can participate. So we start simple, but $35, $40 radio.
To $100, somewhere in that range.
Right. And don't scare yourself away with high prices and
Yeah.
find out you're not going to like it. That's
Right.
not a very good way to go.
Yeah.
Start simple.
Yeah.
We will, in a few minutes, we will show you on my computer how to program one of these babies on a program called Chirp, and it's a lot easier to use visual tools, as I've found. I've discussed it, and it's hard to get the message across without something like a video. So we'll do that soon.
Yeah, that sounds great. And what we want to mention is for people who don't know anything about, reach out to a club, let them know you're a veteran if you are, and also reach out to your American Legion group in your area and say, hey, why don't we look into this? This might be a hobby that people can take up at any point in life, learn something, stay engaged, and know that there are communities like ham radio clubs that are always happy to help someone new learning and benefiting from the hobby.
Yes, and it's also a great thing in emergency situations.
Yes.
Because it's a lot easier for some evil person out there to hack into some major computer thing and foul up everything. With ham radio, you have several repeaters across the nation with several radios, and it's going to be awfully hard for them to precision attack all of them.
Yeah, right. Because it's a simpler system, it's more robust than a lot of our advanced cellular everything, which are usually almost at maximum anyways. Well, Randy, let's go inside and let us show them the Chirp. And just again, don't be intimidated. Just know there's community and people to help you if you're interested. Oh, and most important, tell about the American Legion group that you're associated with.
I'm associated with the American Legion Post 65 in Statesville. I run their Facebook page, so we're on there. I take a lot of the pictures, not all of them, but most of them. And we'll be working on all kinds of fun electronic stuff with cameras, toys, radio toys too. And we will be doing all that. We see you now, and we look forward to more of this type of thing in the future.
And we even have something called Echo Link. So if you're a new ham, that's how you started. That's just on your computer or your phone. You do have to get that license, but once you have it, you can start talking to people through that just to learn how to talk. The real fun is when you're on the airways, but that's all you need is the app and the connection to be able to do that.
As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought up the Echo Link, because I brought up Echo Link at the Sons of American Legion meeting, and believe it or not, they were amazed that with software-defined radio these days, you can build a radio out of your computer, and it's just amazing. We keep coming up with new things to do.
Excellent. Let's go on in.
All right.
Make sure we stop that.
So that if you haven't seen this before, you'll benefit. I have to type in Chirp, the word Chirp, in my search engine, and it's right there, Chirp app. I go over to Chirp app, and I hit open, or I left click on open, and here comes my, that's the quickest I've ever seen my dialogue screen come up. Wow. Good. Okay, the first initial steps, of course, I would have my programming cable, plug it in like that, with the radio off on a quiet channel, so you don't download anything into somebody's conversation. Up here, we left click on radio, download radio. It's also Alt-D if you like the other keys.
And then you're going to look up the directories, local directories, and get them.
Right.
Bring them into the computer.
This is Comport. This is a Baofeng UV5R.
So
okay. Then I can hit radio again. Down here, there's a query, a thing called query data source. Okay. Don't forget about that. This is valuable. And on it, it will open up a window to what's called repeater book. It's the same repeater book as you can buy in book form. And then that will open up another. I want to go slow with this because the windows open up quick. The next window you have the choice of repeater book, political query, which I don't bother with too much, and proximity query, which I like a lot. On proximity query, it tells you I have it set for Statesville, where I live, but I could type in anything I wanted.
Right.
I would hit OK. And this gives you the package for the local repeaters around Statesville. And you'd be surprised how many repeaters are actually around. The one we use the most, of course, I target our clubs, is number 3, or in location usually programmed as channel 3 to your radio. 146685. The call sign is Whiskey 4 Sierra November Charlie, or W4SNC. There is a subaudible tone. You have to have that in there or the repeater won't recognize you at all. And it's a 77 hertz tone, which this program will actually take you right straight there. It's harder to manually program your radio. It takes a lot more patience. A lot of us don't have that.
And then it loads it into the radio and you're good to go.
You are. All you have to do is test it. And I, of course, take your programming cable out.
Yep.
Turn on your radio.
Frequency mode.
And you get instantly negative offset 146685. And if we were outside, I will trip the repeater by making a call.
Yeah.
And this is an old-fashioned repeater, so it's got the Morse code sign on. And that is the simplest way to get yourself on the air around Statesville, North Carolina.
Yeah. And you can see you can learn this from a local club, and we have things called Elmers, which are older hams that volunteer to help people.
And there's no shame in having any problems with this, so keep trying, because even the Elmers and those of us who've had practice with this still run into issues. It's going to happen. It's just part of the deal.
Well, Randy, this has been great to learn a little bit about your work with the American Legion. Thank you for your service as well.
Yes.
And thanks for reaching out to help other veterans with the American Legion.
Yes, thank you, and you're welcome. I'm always glad to help not just veterans, but this also helps new hams too, because you get your technician license, and then what do you do?
Yeah.
And this is a good first experience for people to get familiar with the equipment without spending a lot of money and, finding out you didn't like it. Most people will find out they do like it, but the worst thing in the world is to get too fast into it without any guidance. Yeah. And this is a good way to do it.
What's your advice to reluctant hams of getting on the air?
Well, first of all, there's I know a few licensed hams who've never been on the air. Because they did the licensing part real well, but they didn't have the support of doing what we're attempting to do. Starting simple.
Yeah. Start
with a club in your area that supports you, and you'll end up supporting them as well. It goes both ways. And I say start with simple equipment, get your license to get on the air, and
then, of course, we have an association, ARRL. I'll put that in the text below, too, to get the magazine. If somehow you don't have a club with the internet, there's always someone that can help.
Absolutely, and I love their support work. They even do Morse code support work. And remember, do not worry about it's not part of the technician test anymore. It's an elective.
Right.
So don't worry about that. Just study the current question pool on the many study sites and just keep studying.
That's great. Thanks, Randy.
Oh, thank you, and you're welcome.
Signing off, KI4CFS
and Kilo Oscar 4, Charlie Whiskey Charlie, Randy in Statesville.